All right, so first we're going to start with what I like to consider a medium-sized drywall hole. It's not small enough that I can just put mud in it, but it's not large enough that I need to cut back from this stud and this stud. So first we're going to start by cutting out our hole. Now in most cases, I will use a utility knife first to cut the paper and then come back with my drywall knife. I do this mainly because I think it makes for a cleaner cut. All right, so next I'm just going to measure out my hole. Next, I'm going to cut the 4 corner blocks that I will use to attach the new drywall patch. In my case, I'm just going to be using a scrap 1x4 I had left over from another job, but I would definitely suggest using some kind of wood blocking, as you want to make sure the screws sink properly into the drywall. Next, we're going to measure out our patch and cut it out of some scrap drywall. Now, if you don't happen to have a small piece of drywall lying around, usually you can pick up a small 2x4 or 4x4 sheet at your local hardware store. Next, we're going to install our blocking. Now, I suggest adding them to the corners as I think it adds a bit more support, but you could add them to the middle. As long as it really holds the drywall in place while you're trying to mud it, you should be fine. Now we can go ahead and install the patch. If it doesn't sit perfect, it's not really a big deal, as mudding it will cover up any imperfections. Next, I'm going to put the mesh tape on and start mudding the seams. The benefit to using mesh tape is that I can apply it directly over the seam, as it has a self-adhesive on the back, whereas the paper tape, I would need to apply a thin coat of mud first to get the tape to stick. Now, one thing you want to remember is that when you use mesh tape, it is recommended that you use a quickset mud to avoid shrinking. Quickset mud should also only be used on the first coat. Now, once our first coat is set up, we can take our 6-inch knife or sanding block and knock down any high spots. Now, once you've knocked down the high spots, we can go ahead and start our second coat. Now, the goal here is to fill in any gaps left by the first coat and to build up the patch so that it matches the rest of the wall. Now, just like we did before, we'll take our 6-inch knife and knock down any high spots. Then we can start on our skim coat. The goal here being to fill in any imperfections left by the first 2 coats, and then also to feather out the edges between 3 and 5 inches. Then once our skim coat is set up, we can go ahead and sand it smooth, and then apply texture if we need to, and then paint.